Today on August 27, 2020, the warm up was an SEL activity, and that's just to check on your social emotional needs. But as far as the actual content, so I did go over re-go over. So if you go into your assignments, and a lot of you have submitted the 1.1.1 a sketchy scene, but it was not submitted properly. So I went over that. So when you were supposed to do 6 and 7, so 6 says start a Google Doc entitled Anna Garcia Case Report. So that would be like this, Anna Garcia Case Report. You will be adding to this report bit by bit as the unit advances, and it will count as a formal grade towards the end of the unit. So you're going to have the description of Anna Garcia and the circumstances surrounding her death, and you're also going to have a section titled Scene Sketch. So when I go to that, I have the description of Anna Garcia section. So I have like she's female 20 and any other thing that you want to put in, and also a scene of the sketch. So that was what you had did in your notebook. You're going to take a picture of that scene and you're going to upload it to this Google Doc. And that was all you had to do for part 6. Then for 7, you're supposed to take pictures of your notes in your notebook and copy them into a Google Doc titled 1.1.1 a sketchy scene. So what I did was I created another Google Doc, and every notes that you took, you will take those pictures, including the conclusion questions, and you will upload them here. You're going to submit them to Canvas. I know a lot of people said they didn't realize, they didn't see how you could submit 2 things at once on Canvas. So I'm going to come up with a solution for that as well. Because you were also supposed to submit a copy of your case report that you did in step 6. So what I said what you could do was do the activity, like say activity 1.1.1, I would have the links. So like I have the link for my case report, and I have the link for like my a sketchy scene. So that way you have 6 here, and then you have the rest of 7 here. And you can just submit this Google Doc instead of worrying about submitting both individually until we figure out how to do that. So that's what I went over first. And then we moved on to this 1.1.2 that we've been working on, which is dealing with the witnesses. So I told you this link works now with your PLTW login information, and if you don't have the information, you need to either message me on Remind or send me an email. So we did all of this yesterday, and we're at 6. So 6 is the true or false statement, and what you would do is, again, you will make sure that this was open, and it will open up to this section. And you will go down to the area. So if you look over here on the left, you will see that it's kind of bulleted for you. So if you click on the true or false and read the directions, it says read the introduction to this section. So you're going to read the introduction, which is here. Then it says skip step 24 and respond to step 25 in your notebook. So you're going to skip step 24 and respond to step 25. And step 25 says record the following problem question. What happens to respiratory rate and heart rate when an individual is lying? And you will answer that. And then you will also answer, make a prediction about what will happen to your heart and respiratory rate as you lie. So that's what you would answer for step 6. Then it says go down to putting it all together. So if you go back and you look to the side, it says putting it all together here. Read the introduction to this section. So as usual, you're going to read the introduction, which is here. Watch the video and take notes in your lab journal. So you're going to click on this link and watch this PBS video about how does a polygraph work. Then you're going to respond to step 37 in your notebook. So if you go down to step 37, it says discuss with your partner your ideas about what to look at to determine deception based on the heart rate and respiratory rate of data collected. Then you're going to skip steps 38 through 40 and read the ethical scenario section and respond to that prompt. So if you keep scrolling down, you'll see the ethical scenario. So you can read this information, and then you're going to respond to this prompt. If polygraph data is not admissible in court, do you think it should be allowed to be used as an interrogation method or employment screening? Why or why not? And then that will wrap up step 7 for you. Step 8, you're just reading the experimental design information. You're going to respond to the questions in the identifying experimental design box in your notebook, and you may need to read back through earlier. So if you go down to the experimental design, you're going to read through this, kind of get a grasp of what experimental design is, and you're going to respond to these questions, 7 questions in your lab notebook, well, in your school, PBS notebook. So just a brief thing about experimental design. So you always have a problem. So you identify the question in step 1. Then you make a prediction based off of the question. Then based off of that, you're going to try to design an experiment to try to get some answers. After you design your experiment, you're going to conduct the experiment. After you conduct the experiment, you should get some type of results or data. You're going to analyze them, and then you're going to communicate your findings, whether that's in a case report or an oral presentation or something. So think about when you're trying to, if somebody was trying to solve a crime or a murder or something like that, they would have a case report that would have all of that information logged on file electronically, but then you might have to do a press conference. So then that way, another way of communication would be oral communication. And that is what step 8 is. Then the next step is step 9, where you're going to evaluate statements. You're going to complete steps 41 and 42 in your lab journal and title a section in your electronic case report that you've been working on and call it polygraph results. Add your explanations and interpretations of each individual polygraph test to your report. Reminder, your case report will count as a formal grade once the Anna Garcia investigation is completed. So when you go and you come over here and do it, you go to evaluating statements, you're going to read this section, and you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different statements and polygraph results. So when you click on Eric, you have some information about him, even though you learned some a couple of days ago. You also have some control questions. Remember, our control questions serve as the baseline in the polygraph test. So these are just simple yes or no questions. Is your name Eric Piedmont? Yes. You can click and make this bigger so that you can kind of see the results. So like this is the respiration rate and this is the heart rate. What you're going to doing with this information is you're comparing the other questions that are not baseline questions to the control questions. So for example, when you go through these control questions and kind of see how Eric responds, then you have a baseline to judge the other questions. So like for here, it says, are you Anna Garcia's boyfriend? When you look at this data compared to control questions, does it seem that his heart rate or respiration rate is increasing more than usual? If so, that could indicate that he is lying. And you would do that again for all of the other ones. So again, you would have to do that for all of the other ones. So you have 5 different statements that you're going to have to go through and kind of log. And that's for 41. And then for 42, it says create a table like the one below. Record your notes about any changes in the physiological data that you might indicate lying. Note that the only one entry row is shown in the sample book table. You should create as many rows as you need to record findings. So for example, one column is the person of interest. You have 5 different ones. Any indication of lying, yes or no? Which responses might be lies, or which questions did that you feel like they were being deceptive on? What notes and reasoning do you have to support this? Then the part B of 42 is summarize your findings. Write down any open, lingering questions you have, and note any individuals you think may be involved in Anna Garcia's death, and explain your reasoning. With the scene document and the person of interest interviewed, your next step is to head into the lab to analyze the evidence found at the scene. Your training evidence analysis will help you piece together the puzzle of what happened to Anna. So remember, this section we're dealing with the witnesses, and then the next section after this we'll deal with actual evidence. So this is what you're supposed to do. That's all of step 9 with the evaluating statements. Then for step 10, which is what all of this is what you're responsible for today, is your conclusion questions. Title a section in your notebook 1.1.2 conclusion questions. Respond to the conclusion questions in complete sentences in your notebook. Complete sentences give your answers context. Otherwise, when you look back over them when you study, they will not make sense. So when you keep scrolling down, you have two conclusion questions. How are your respiratory rate and heart rate related? We've been answering that same question all week. Describe two ways the experimental design process can be used in medicine or healthcare. So you're going to give pretty much almost your own explanation of that, or how do you feel like that process can be beneficial to the medical or healthcare field. And that's just pretty much what we did today. And then tomorrow, we're going to do the Tertullian part, and that's where you're going to take pictures of your journal or your notebook and paste them in a Google Doc. Title 1.1.2 Reliable Witnesses. So that's similar like what you did over here with 1.1.1. Upload it to Canvas, and then you're going to share your updated case report, and you're going to have a quiz. So all of that is tomorrow. So remember that case report. So you're adding things. Remember, we've added things to that case report. So remember, the first thing that we added this week was, well, yesterday was the persons of interest. So you had that, you added to the case report. And you've added some other things since then. So just make sure that you read thoroughly through this and what everything is asking so that it's precise and it's concise. And that's pretty much everything. Have a great day.